When Clara, an elderly black woman, walked into the Haven Bistro on her birthday, she hoped for a joyful evening. Instead, she faced cold stares and quiet rejection from a young waiter whose prejudice cut deeper than any insult. He dismissed her presence with a single glance, unaware he was humiliating the mother of Marcus, the very owner of the restaurant. What unfolded next would not only shatter his career but also expose a lingering stain of discrimination. The Haven Bistro bustled with life, soft clinks of glasses, muffled conversations, and the aroma of rosemary-crusted chicken filled the air. For Clara, this place had always felt like home. Tonight, however, something was different. Her eyes lingered on the waiter, whose furrowed brows and dismissive smirk spoke volumes. As she approached, she tried to overlook his attitude, attributing it to fatigue. But behind his mask of professionalism, a storm of bias simmered, ready to erupt. Before we dive into this story, don't forget to subscribe and hit the notification bell to stay updated with our latest stories. Now, let's get started. Clara took a calming breath, her years of experience teaching her to choose her battles wisely. But as she asked the waiter, "Could I wait at the counter instead?" his dismissive chuckle was like a slap across her dignity. His reply came sharp and laced with venom. "You still don't get it, do you? There's no space here for someone like you." The words hung in the air, heavier than the clatter of dishes around them. Clara's face tightened, but her composure remained intact. Inside, though, old wounds resurfaced. She thought of the years she had fought against voices just like his, those that had told her she didn't belong, that she was less than others. The waiter's smirk widened as if her silence confirmed his authority. Customers began to shift uncomfortably in their seats, whispering and stealing glances. Clara locked eyes with the waiter and asked firmly, "Do you know who I am?" His smirk turned into a sneer. "I don't care who you are. People like you shouldn't even try to dine here." His gaze dropped pointedly to her worn handbag and modest shoes, his judgment as loud as his words. Clara clenched her fists, her pulse pounding in her ears. A young woman seated nearby whispered to her companion, "This feels wrong," as she subtly recorded the scene on her phone. The atmosphere in the Haven Bistro grew tense, the warmth of the evening giving way to an icy, suffocating silence. Clara took one steadying breath, determined not to let her dignity falter, even under the weight of blatant discrimination. Clara straightened her back, a quiet strength radiating from her small frame. The waiter's words replayed in her mind. "People like you." They weren't just words. They were daggers aimed at a lifetime of battles she thought she'd left behind. But Clara wasn't the timid girl she once was. She had raised Marcus to stand tall in a world eager to push him down, and now she had to live by the very lessons she'd taught. "I'd like to speak to the manager," she said, her voice calm but commanding, cutting through the tense hum of the restaurant. The waiter faltered, his smirk replaced by a flicker of uncertainty. "The manager's busy," he muttered, avoiding her gaze, but Clara's resolve didn't waver. Customers began murmuring louder, their discomfort growing. One man whispered, "Why doesn't he just call the manager?" while others picked up their phones to document the unfolding tension. Clara remained steady, her hands clasped tightly to keep from trembling. "You don't need to make this harder," the waiter hissed, his voice dropping low. "Just leave quietly." But Clara stepped closer, her presence undeniable. "No," she said firmly, meeting his glare. "I will not be silenced. Call the manager. Now." A ripple of applause sounded from a nearby table, a subtle but powerful sign of solidarity. Clara felt the weight of their support, but also the responsibility to stand her ground, not just for herself, but for everyone who'd ever been told they didn't belong. The murmur of voices grew louder as Clara stood her ground, unshaken by the waiter's glare. Phones were now raised openly, their cameras capturing the exchange. Clara could feel the weight of countless eyes on her, but she refused to waver. "She's right," a voice called out from a nearby table. A young woman, her phone still recording, stood up. "This isn't just rude, it's wrong." Her words sparked a ripple of agreement across the room. Others began nodding, some murmuring words of support. What kind of place treats people like this? A man added sharply. The waiter's confidence faltered, his smirk replaced with a nervous glance at the crowd. Everyone, please, he stammered, his voice cracking slightly. This isn't your concern. But the bistro was no longer his domain. It had become a stage for something much larger. A hashtag began trending almost immediately. #StandWithClara. Videos of her poised determination and the waiter's blatant discrimination flooded social media. Comments poured in, condemning the injustice. Clara wasn't just speaking for herself anymore. She had become a voice for so many others who'd been silenced. The door to the kitchen swung open, and the manager finally appeared, his face pale as he surveyed the scene. His hurried steps toward Clara did little to calm the escalating tension. "I'm so sorry, ma'am," he began, his words trembling. But Clara, steady as ever, interrupted, her voice resonating through the room. "This isn't just about me. It's about every person who's ever been made to feel like they don't belong. What are you going to do about that?" The question lingered, heavy and unavoidable. The crowd fell silent, their attention fixed on the manager as he struggled to respond, the magnitude of the moment settling on his shoulders. The tension in the Haven Bistro was palpable when the front doors swung open and Marcus strode in, his face set like stone. A hush fell over the room as diners turned to watch the man many recognized from the restaurant's promotions. But tonight, Marcus wasn't here to greet guests or oversee the menu. His steps were measured, deliberate, each one filled with the weight of his purpose. "Mom." Marcus's voice broke the silence as he approached Clara. The manager, still stammering excuses, froze mid-sentence. Clara turned to face her son, her calm demeanor a stark contrast to the chaos around her. "What's going on here?" Marcus asked, though his steely gaze already told him most of the story. The waiter's face turned pale, his earlier arrogance crumbling. I didn't know." He stuttered, unable to meet Marcus's eyes. "Didn't know what?" Marcus's voice was calm but carried an edge sharp enough to cut through the air. "Didn't know that the woman you were disrespecting is my mother? Or didn't know that your actions would reflect everything this restaurant stands against?" The room held its breath as Marcus turned to the manager. "And you? You were just going to let this happen? What have we been building here if not a place where everyone feels welcome?" The manager's mouth opened, but no words came. Marcus shifted his attention back to the waiter. "You're fired," he said, the words carrying the weight of finality. "Leave now." The waiter hesitated, his pride and shame warring on his face, but the quiet judgment of the room was too much to bear. He slinked away without another word, leaving the restaurant in a silence broken only by murmured approval and the occasional clap from the diners. Marcus turned back to Clara, his shoulders softening as he placed a gentle hand on her arm. "Are you okay?" he asked, his voice filled with concern. "I'm fine," Clara replied, her voice steady. "But this isn't just about me. This is about what we stand for." Marcus nodded and raised his voice, addressing everyone in the restaurant. "I want to make one thing very clear. This place was built to be a home for everyone, no matter who they are or where they come from. Discrimination has no place here, ever." The room erupted in applause, not just for Marcus's words but for the unwavering strength of Clara. Marcus turned to his mother, a small smile breaking his stern exterior. "Let's make sure this night ends the way it was meant to," he said, gently guiding her toward a table that had been set just for her. As Clara and Marcus settled into their table, the air in the Haven Bistro shifted. What had begun as a moment of humiliation had transformed into a declaration of unity and resilience. The applause from the diners still echoed faintly, and many remained seated, their conversations now infused with respect and admiration. Marcus leaned in, his voice low but steady. "Mom, tonight showed me something important. This isn't just a restaurant, it's a symbol of what we've fought for. I'll make sure this place reflects that in every way." Clara's eyes softened, pride shining through. "It always has been, Marcus. But tonight, it became more than just walls and tables. It became a statement." The diners, many still scrolling through their phones, began sharing the events with captions like, standing up for what's right, and a lesson in dignity. The hashtag Stand With Clara gained even more momentum, spreading the story far beyond the walls of the restaurant. In the hours that followed, the video of Marcus addressing the crowd and firing the waiter reached thousands, then millions, resonating with viewers from all walks of life. As dessert was served, Marcus stood once more, addressing the diners who were still present. "Thank you all for your support tonight," he began, his voice filled with both gratitude and determination. "This restaurant is more than a business. It's a place where everyone is welcome, no matter their background. What happened tonight will not happen again. We are committed to implementing staff training and policies that ensure every guest is treated with respect and dignity." A round of applause followed, a tangible wave of solidarity. Marcus glanced at Clara, who gave him a small nod, her approval unspoken but unmistakable. For her, this wasn't just a personal victory. It was a victory for everyone who had ever been told they didn't belong. As the restaurant began to quiet down, Clara and Marcus shared a moment of reflection. For Clara, this birthday would forever stand out, not because of the confrontation, but because of the strength and unity it had revealed. The Haven Bistro wasn't just her son's restaurant anymore. It was a beacon of hope, a place that symbolized progress in a world still fighting for equality. And as Clara walked out that evening, arm in arm with Marcus, the city lights reflected the spark of change that had been ignited within those walls. Before we wrap up, let's not forget that stories like Clara's remind us of the importance of standing against injustice and fighting for dignity. If this story inspired you, please subscribe to our channel and hit the notification bell to join us in spreading more stories that matter. Together, we can create a world where equality and respect prevail.